Today we're headed to the ruins of the Mayan city of Tenam, just outside Comitan de Dominguez here, and I'm really excited to see it. So let's get going. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Ian. I'm known as WanderBeard around these parts. And we're just making our way over to the starting point for the colectivos out to the ruins. It's only about 3 blocks from the main square. I will put it on the map here so you can see where it is, because it wasn't super obvious to me at first. So if you just do a Google Map search for Tenam, pointed squarely on the center of Comitan, there is a search result for it. Perfect day for it. Sunny, a little bit of clouds, and should be an exciting trip. So we're just making our way over here. Should be there in another couple of minutes, and we'll get on our way. Well, that was good timing. I literally walked up to the entryway and he was just pulling out. So we are off. So we just arrived. It is about a 30-minute or so ride up on the colectivo up to here, and very smooth, goes through a little town and all that kind of stuff. So when you arrive, so when you first get here, you think that the ruins are actually, they're on the other side of the street. So you come over here first to this office to pick up your tickets. It was 75 pesos for entrance. I'm here at 10:15 on a Sunday, and I'm only the 3rd person to check in, so that's very exciting. So once you get your ticket, you just kind of go back out here, walk down to where that other building is down here across the street. I assume you present your ticket there, and then you can get in. If you're coming up here with a car, there is lots of parking, as you can see. And the other thing to mention, he said that to get the colectivo back into Comitan, it's the same place. You just kind of come back to this office, wait here, and he said it's about every 30 minutes or so. So let's head on over to Tenam, or Tenam Puente, depending on your version of the story, and let's get going. And again, it is a perfect day. So here's the hours. So 8 a.m. to 4:30, closes at 5, last entrance 4:30. Although it might be 4 o'clock. I don't know. Anyway, when you get here, you gotta hike up a little bit. There's a space there. I guess you could check in, but I don't see anybody there. I do love ruin sites when there's nobody else here. So there's a sign here. This is sort of some of the background on Tenam, which I'll kind of go through briefly. But it was first founded, I mentioned this yesterday in the museum video also. This site was first rediscovered, I guess, in 1925 by Franz Blom and Oliver Lafarge. They then released sketches of it in one of their famous books about expeditions to Central America. This site roughly predates the fall of the Mayan Empire by about 600 to 700 years. The height of its importance was from like 600 to 900 AD, and they say the last date identified here so far was 790 AD. The name of Tenam Puente actually comes from the Nahuatl word Tenamtil, which is like a fort or fortified place. And then Puente is bridge, and that is because this was discovered on a farmland here. And so I don't know exactly why they added the word bridge to it, but nonetheless. This is certainly one of the less visited sites, I would say. here in Mexico, but from the pictures that I've seen, it is no less impressive. So we're gonna head up this way in a couple of minutes. This place is actually sort of stepped. So the way that this place was designed was all of these lands were cleared out and flattened on a series of steps. So there's one here, there's two, I think there's 5 in total. And each step had different purposes. There is an acropolis on one, there are temples on the others, there are homes, and all sorts of neat things. And to give you just a teaser, there you can see the steps heading up. Let's go over this way first, because there's a temple over here also that is worth checking out. I never get tired of seeing these ball courts for pelota. Every site that I've been to has had these ball courts within them. So if you haven't seen my other videos, pelota was a game played during the Mayan years. I believe it had another name, Pak Tok, also, but it is commonly known as pelota. It was a ball game that was played with a heavy ball made of several materials, about the size of what would be a softball today. And this court is how they would play. So you would have this main game field here in the middle. There would actually be a couple of circular stones placed up on each of these walls where the players would try and get the ball through it using any part of their body except their feet or their hands. And so to see this as sort of the first piece of Tenam when you come in really shows the importance of the game here in the city. What I find really cool about this place already is that it is completely surrounded by retaining walls. So I saw it up farther too when you get up there to have a look in a bit, that because of the way this place was designed with its different steps and, you know, sheer walls and things that needed to cut off, there were going to be a lot of these very impressive retaining walls, all stepped as well, so you can climb up and down. So we just made it our way up from the pelota court, up the first set of steps, up to this first amazing plateau. This has to be the size of, it's got to be a football field in size or more. If you're Canadian, 3 hockey rinks, I would say. And you really get a feel standing here just how much work would have gone into leveling this place out. So I say this is the front of the temple because I assume this is the stone where offerings would have been placed for the gods in front of the temple here, with the set of steps going up. And it just sits here basically all alone. There, I do see down farther here, however, the remnants of another one, but I think it's just probably a small flat plane there. To get up to the next level, you basically have to climb up using your hands and feet. There's even a sign here carved in wood. It's very typical of the style of build. You would have these very steep stairs to climb up, because obviously as you climb up, you're getting closer to the gods in heaven in Mayan history. So I am going to put my camera away temporarily while I get up to the next level. Well, they are certainly steep, and the second half was actually not as steep as the first. So if you do come here, take your time. Don't be, oh, I'm too cool to use my hands. or, oh, I'm too cool to climb down on my butt. Yeah, those are some serious steps. So take your time. So we come up here to this next platform, which is significantly smaller than the first one, but has a lot more going on. So let's take a walk over this way first. Now I had a map for the names of all these temples, but because my cell service up here doesn't work, I can't access the map. Now it is my understanding that each temple in these Mayan cities was representative of a different Mayan god. So that's why you see so many in these different cities. You might have one for god of rain, god of the stars, and so on. And each one of these temples was a separate representation of those. It's a pretty cool spot here, though. You can imagine all this brickwork being finished at the time. Everything would have been very brightly colored. This would have been cleared, obviously, of trees, and there would have been hundreds or thousands of people, here at the time. One of the things I read that was interesting, talking about the collapse of the Maya civilization, which seemed to start around 7 to 800 AD. A lot of people continue to try and figure out exactly what happened, but no one really knows for sure. There's some new evidence that some of the larger cities like Tikal collapsed because of water supply issues. If you can imagine, many of these places were, much like here, up on hills, in dense jungle, where gathering water would have been an absolute nightmare, I think, in some cases. And as those cities grew, the resources became more constrained. I also recently watched yes, I am a total nerd. Recently watched a documentary from National Geographic on some new evidence, which seemed to point towards poisonous in the water. Were introduced through parasites, through mercury that was used, some of the pigments that were used to color these temples. The red, in particular, had a chemical that's made of mercury. As you ingest mercury over time, so like through dust or it gets in the water supply or whatever, that mercury can really affect your logic process, your thinking processes, causes quite a bit of brain problem. And so one of the theories now is that some of that mercury pigment combined with some of the parasites in the water led to large-scale collapse, deaths of hundreds and thousands of people, and so many of those cities just became abandoned over time. One of the things I did find interesting, however, was their talk of these high elevation cities, like here in Tenam, for example, actually survived and then thrived for a short while after some of the larger cities collapsed, because people would relocate from those cities to these places. And so it actually helped revitalize them for a short while. Ultimately, around 900 AD, 1000 AD, began sort of the final collapse, we'll call it, of the Mayan Empire. Some cities remained, obviously, right up until the arrival of the Spanish, but the largest and most glorious of some of those cities had been lost already for hundreds of years at that point. There is another group here. So after coming across from that smaller temple, I wanted to make my way over here, as there is a series of very large, very impressive looking temples just up ahead. So there are some signs here which will help a little bit. This temple number 11 that's here is unique to this site. And I'll go around to the indicated north side in a second to show you why. But here on the south side, you can see it had this really kind of ornate stepping to it, kind of really neat sort of design to it, where it was actually pushed in slightly along the way. But what's super interesting about this one, and what makes it unique to this site, is what's on the other side. This is the only temple here that it would have had steps entering an enclosed structure that would have been here. So there were steps here. This was a platform, and there was actually a top on top of this building. And according to records, they say that the building itself collapsed from looting. You know, there were obviously a lot of offerings and things placed inside this temple. Over time, it was looted, and then eventually the building just collapsed with age. However, even more impressive is what's here in front of me. So one of the things they mention is that, according to this information that's here, first of all, before I get too far ahead of myself, you can see the red pigment still exists on all the rocks up on the, at least on the right-hand side here. And it talks about on the sign there how Stela number 1, which was found at this site and now resides in the museum in Tuxtla, they believe was probably originally at the base of this temple. And we're going to go up here in a second, climb up and around to get a better view. There's some more stuff over here. But they say at the top is actually a reasonably preserved temple, which you can see when you get up. So these don't look quite as foreboding as the other ones did, at least in terms of numbers. So let's go up and have a look. Just going to try and give you an idea of how steep these steps are. And they're probably about 40 centimeters tall each step. So you can imagine being here and trying to get around from level to level. And you're greeted with another temple right here, probably an offering space here in the front. Really impressive. So again, this is another, you can see very clearly, a flattened out and cleared space here that would have been used in the creation of the temples that sit here. You can just see at the very top what would have been the original temple building. I don't think there's anything over this way, but I'll go have a look. So yeah, just to confirm, I did see one other family that were in the process of leaving as I was coming up. So other than them on their departure now, I'm the only one here. You can really see the red pigment here. There's an example there, like you can really see how brightly colored all of these temples would have been. You know, this one would have been completely covered in this red pigment, which, as I mentioned, was poisonous, primarily derived from material that contained mercury. So even in the building process of these temples, you know, it was slowly poisoning people over time. So I think to continue, I have to go back out to the main platform to work my way up to the next level. Well, the good news is I get up high enough that my signal came back on my phone. So now I have my information again. So as I mentioned, this was, I'm going to stop calling them temples because they officially are named buildings. This is building number 7 here, which they talked about had Stela number 1 directly in front of it. And then this is actually temple number 7, or building number 7, which again was another temple that had offering space here in front of a temple which would have had the flat top to it. So we have to get down to get up. So we're going to head back over this way and go up to the next level. Just a quick note as I swing back over here to climb up to the next section. This was actually a pelota court with the temple at the end. So there was actually 3 of them. So there was one down at the bottom where we started. Then there was this one here. And then there was actually one more on the next level up. So let's go up and have a look at the next level here at Tenam, just outside Comitan in Chiapas. So here's our third and final pelota court, and this one's actually in a bit better shape. Maybe some restoration, I'm going to guess, but impressive nonetheless. So again, you have this sort of T-shaped ball court, T-shaped on either end, or a capital I suppose, with one of the starting discs here. You know, would have had the seating areas on both sides for the crowds, and would have been pretty exciting, I think, to see back in the day. You know, sitting here and there's 2 or 3 different games going on at the same time. So we've made our way up here to what's known as Plaza B. Again, you can see very flat and surrounded by buildings and temples all the way around. This building here is interesting because it has these smaller rooms in the front, which could have been maybe storage or small places to sleep, cook, who knows. But 1, 2, 3, and then a smaller one over there. There's a much larger building, temple here, and then again smaller buildings kind of encircle around to what would have been another temple building here. There's this small little space here directly in the middle of the plaza, which is not indicated on any map, but it's got this really interesting kind of low sloped walls to it. So I almost wonder if this was like another offering space for temple / building 17, which is the one that's in front of us. So I'm just reading the information here on number 17, and it talks about that this building actually underwent 2 different construction periods. So there was a smaller building first, and then, as was typical, they built a larger structure on top of it. And it actually mentioned that there was a tomb located, which may actually be this little building here that I was wondering about. And it actually found inside was a sculpture of a person kneeling down with their hands bound behind their back, decapitated, representing a prisoner. There was also a human grave that was found at the temple, and so you wonder if, you know, the symbology of the prisoner here was an offering, you know, to help protect this city from attackers or other cities. Obviously, the Mayan Empire as a whole was never a single cohesive unit. There were many warring factions between the Mayan cities. And so I think maybe this was one way for them to try and help protect their city. So the little footstep sign is here, so we're going to head up this way to what I think is the last level up at the top. And from what the map indicates, possibly the most impressive as well. So we've just come up to Plaza C here, which again has all these little smaller buildings. You know, it's quite obvious that these were possibly meeting buildings, you know, those types of things. They're smaller rectangular buildings with some short stairs up to the fronts. And then, of course, you've got another temple here, which is number 14. This one here actually is interesting because the information says that locals still use this as a space for festivals today. Obviously, over time, you know, much of the religion here has changed to Christianity. So we're coming around to the side here, where you'll see in a second the transformation and continued use. So here you can see is a Christian cross that's been adorned on the top of temple number 14 here. And this is still relevant today because the people from the town of Francisco Sarabia still have festivities up in this area. Obviously the view over the valley is right there. And so on May 3rd, which is Santa Cruz Day, the cross actually comes up and gets adorned with orchids and other flowers, those types of things, candles. And then again in August, during the Heart of Mary, there is a picture of the Virgin Mary that is brought up and placed here. And then there's a celebration with music and a whole festival, at which time the picture is then brought back down for another year. This temple here also has possibly one of the nicest views at the entire site. Here you can see the entire Comitan Valley up here in the mountains. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Comitan de Dominguez is just over there at the foothill of those mountains. This is the smaller town we came through earlier on the Colectivo. What a view. It's pretty cool that after, 1,500 plus years, this place is still being used today by locals. So we're just heading up over this way. We're just about to come around to the last section, Plaza D, which is at the highest point here in the city. Well, they certainly saved the best for last, don't they? Wow. This is building number 42, which is the Triple Temple building. And yeah, unbelievable. Over here off to the side, we also have another one that is building, I believe, 37. And there's actually a third one here, which I will show you in a minute, but I believe is a little harder to see, so to speak. But this triplex here is just a beautiful, beautiful space. This middle one here, actually, interestingly enough, has a hole. You can kind of see there's a hole there in the middle for offerings that would have been placed directly underneath the main temple at the top. And I know I've said this at least a half a dozen times so far, but I can't believe I basically have this place to myself. I remember when I visited Edsna last year, I had the same sort of feeling there, in that I was, almost alone, in total peace and quiet. And it's a far cry from what you experience when you go to places like Chichen Itza or the ruins of Tulum or those types of places where it's just overrun with people. And what does Tulum or Chichen Itza have that this place doesn't? I mean, are some of the buildings at Chichen Itza a bit more pronounced? Sure. But this feels like a much more authentic experience. So the other building I was talking about, that a little harder to see, is still in here underneath all this vegetation. This is actually building number 43, which was another large singular temple style building, but remains lost to nature at this time. So you can imagine this large plaza here, with temple building, the three temple building. There's a mound here in the middle, which may have been some sort of offering or sacrificial space. And then this other temple here, all adorned in bright colors, reds and yellows and bright blues and greens. It would have been quite the sight to behold. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you come to Comitan de Dominguez, which I absolutely recommend. It's a beautiful city, wonderful people. Everyone has been so friendly. It's just been a remarkable experience, and I'm so glad that I sort of stumbled across it in a way, because this has been one of my favorite stops in the entire country of Mexico. If you come to Comitan, make sure you get out here to Tenam to check out these ruins. It is as authentic an experience I think you can have. The lack of people, the effort that's involved in climbing up to get up to some of these higher levels, it just all feels very legit. And the kids will make fun of me, but there's definitely 6 or 7 levels to this place, and they are all absolutely worth exploring. Well, I'm going to start making my way back down. They actually have some normal stairs here, at least for part of the trip back down. So I'm going to take these down and see if there is sort of a path down the side of this place, or if I do have to death-defyingly climb back down some of those stone stairs. So let's go have a look. We're just sort of on the back side of that other pelota court we saw earlier. And there are some more stairs here. Very clever. So they make you work your way up, and then they've got some more gradual stairs on the way back down. Huh. I was so close. So this is that first pelota court I saw earlier. And after the very steep climb up the initial set of stairs. And this pathway is actually just right here, right down the backside. So if you do come here, I'm going to say to you, don't come up the easy way. Come up the front, up those stairs, hands and knees, on your butt, whatever it takes, because it is it's part of the experience and really, really cool. So, but I'm glad that these are here to get back down. Climbing up those stairs is one thing. Climbing back down would have been a entirely different experience. So it's just about 11:30 and just starting to see some other people show up. So that stairs actually came out that far right side. I just told them the same thing. They didn't look very enthusiastic about climbing up the stone stairs. But Tenam is near the top of my list for ruin sites that I've been to in Mexico, without a doubt, and can't recommend it enough. So, including them, I've seen 9 people today, and that includes the 2 people that were on the Colectivo with me, and the 1 person at the ticket office, and myself, and that's it. I'm here on a Sunday afternoon, and it is a absolutely stunner of a day to be here, to come up and check this place out, and I hope that you do as well. Tenam is a can't miss, in my opinion. So that's going to do it from here at Tenam Puente, just outside Comitan de Dominguez in the state of Chiapas in Mexico. This is my final stop for the second time in Mexico. And I'm really glad that I spent some time here in Chiapas, checking out Tuxtla Gutierrez, San Cristobal, and here in Comitan, because it is a spectacular part of Mexico. And I really hope that this encourages more people to come and check it out. Maybe my favorite part of Mexico. I've had some really good experiences in this amazing country, and I continue to have amazing experiences, and we'll have more in the future. But, I was up in Palenque last year, which is sort of on the northern end of Chiapas. Amazing time. Now I'm here, and I've kind of come through the central and southern parts of Chiapas, and I've had an even more amazing time. And it's pretty awesome. So yeah, I don't know. I've got no other words. It's just a beautiful place with beautiful people and so much history, and should not be missed. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. If you want to leave a like or a comment below to let me know that you were here, that would be awesome. If you're new to my channel, or if you haven't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below. This channel has been a blessing to me. It has revitalized my life and means the world to me. So every subscriber counts, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I have just relaunched my Patreon page and have 6 different levels available there, each one tied to a different component of my travels and costs. There will be exclusive videos, behind the scenes content, and early access to ad-free versions of all of my videos. If you would like to support me just one time, I have some links here on the screen as QR codes and in the description below for both PayPal and for Bitcoin. No obligation to do that. I do all this by myself. All the recording, all the editing, all the social media, all the comments, everything is 100% me, so I certainly appreciate it. And remember, life is short. Wander. And I'll see you in the next video.